Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our regular council meeting. Moved by Deputy Mayor Lang, seconded by Councillor Jaworski. Be it resolved that the August 24th, 2026 council meeting of the Township of South Glengarry now be opened at 6:31 p.m. All those in favor? Carried. If you could please rise as able for the singing of our national anthem. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, moving to the approval of the agenda, are there any amendments?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, we do have an addition to closed session this evening under the section 2392F exemption, that being litigation.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor McDonnell, seconded by Councillor Bougie. And just before I do that, anything from consent this evening to be pulled? Anything from consent agenda to be pulled? Okay. Moved by Councillor McDonnell, seconded by Councillor Bougie. Be it resolved that Council of the Township of South Glengarry approve the agenda as amended. All those in favor? Carried. Approval of minutes. Are there any errors or omissions noted? Seeing none. Moved by Councillor Bougie, seconded by Councillor Jaworski. Be it resolved that the minutes of the following meetings be adopted as circulated. Previous meeting minutes, July 27th, 2026. All those in favor? Carried. We'll now move to the public meeting component of our meeting. Zoning bylaw 09-2026, 20447, Concession Road 3. Garo, I believe Mrs. Haley will be speaking on this.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, everyone. We have one item at our public meeting this evening. This is a public meeting under Section 34 of the Ontario Planning Act. Any person may attend this public meeting and or make written or verbal representation either in support of or in opposition to the proposed zoning bylaw amendment. If a person or public body would otherwise have an ability to appeal the decision of the Council of the Township of South Glengarry to the Ontario Land Tribunal, also known as the OLT, but the person or public body does not make oral submissions at this meeting or make written submissions to the Council of the Township of South Glengarry before the bylaw is decided upon, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision. If a person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the Township of South Glengarry before the bylaw is decided upon, the person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the OLT unless there are reasonable grounds to do so. This amendment is known as the Garo Zoning Amendment. We're going to complete a presentation followed by a question and answer period if required. The subject property is located at part of Lot 36, Concession 3, in the geographic township of Lancaster, now in the township of South Glengarry, surrounding the lands located at 20447 Concession Road 3. So you see, this is the land that we're talking about, and this corner on the right-hand side of the subject property contains an existing dwelling, which I'll speak about in a second. The purpose of this amendment is to rezone the subject property from agriculture to agricultural exception 41 to reduce the minimum lot area from 20 hectares or 49.42 acres to 4.73 hectares or 11.69 acres, and to prohibit residential construction. All other applicable provisions of zoning bylaw 3809 as amended will continue to apply. The applicant had applied for a consent, or what we know as a severance, to remove the dwelling from the subject lands known as a surplus farmhouse dwelling application. The applicant was given provisional severance approval by the United Counties of SD&G on May 19th, 2026. The file is known as B1826. And there was a condition that was required as part of the approval to rezone the subject property to reduce the minimum lot area and to prohibit residential construction, and that is a requirement of the provincial planning statement from the province. So we have a couple photos of the area. So this is the subject house that was severed off, and then you can see some land on this side, and then over here is the farmland that we're looking at rezoning and preserving. A notice of public meeting was circulated to the neighboring property owners within 120 meters. A sign was erected on the severed land along Concession Road 3, and an ad was placed in the Standard Freeholder. Staff have not received any written or oral comments regarding the proposed amendment to date. This is a slide that represents our zoning on the left-hand side in the green, or my left-hand side. The green represents the agricultural zone, and on the right-hand side is the county official plan designation, and it's kind of a beige color, and that represents agricultural resource designated area. So as I mentioned, the property is currently designated agricultural resource and zoned agricultural. As per Delegated Authority Bylaw 05-2023, the zoning amendment application will not be brought back to council for a decision. Delegated authority has been granted to myself for approval. So seeing as how we've received no comments from the public prior to tonight's meeting, assuming we may not receive any comments this evening, if everything goes well, we'll pass that bylaw a little later this week, and that helps speed up the process, so we're not having to bring a report back to the next council meeting, and we're able to do an appeal period much sooner. So I'll turn it over to you, Mr. Mayor. We do have the applicant in the audience. Mr. Garrow is sitting over there, and I'm sure he'd be happy to answer any questions if you need him to.
Thank you. Does anybody from around the council table have any questions at present? Any members of the public? Do you wish to add anything to the? No? Okay. Deputy Mayor Lang.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I know we're not voting on it or anything, but I will just speak in favor of it. It makes a lot of sense, and I have no issue with it at all.
I think that's probably echoed from around council. Yep. Okay. Then I don't think there's any caveats on this one. So, all right. Well, thank you for your attendance, and then we're good to go. All right. Next up is presentations and delegations. The Glengarry Memorial Hospital Foundation. Please proceed if you'd wish. The lectern's up here.
I'll be quick. Excuse me. Mayor McDonald, members of council, staff, and members of the public who were. Thank you for welcoming us this evening. First, a quick little aside. Congratulations on your acclamations, which I had mentioned earlier, and best of luck to everybody in the upcoming race. My name is Michael Madden. For those who are not aware, I'm here tonight as Vice Chair of the Board of Directors for the Hôpital Glengarry Memorial Hospital Foundation. And joining me tonight is our past chair, Pierre Vaillancourt, and our excuse me, fundraising manager, Kim Herencio. Robert Aldred Hughes was scheduled to be here but has not been able to attend. We sincerely appreciate the opportunity to speak with you about something that matters for every resident of South Glengarry, the future of healthcare in our community. I'm sure most, if not all of you, have benefited from the services of the hospital at some point in time. Personally, I and every member of my family have been served well by the hospital at many points in time. Every family hopes they will never need the services of Hôpital Glengarry Memorial Hospital, yet when the day comes, whether it is for a child, whether with an injury, a parent suffering a stroke, or a loved one facing a life-changing diagnosis, nothing matters more than knowing that quality care is available close to home. That is why we are here tonight. Our foundation is in the final 7 months of a community-wide campaign to bring a CT scanner to Hôpital Glengarry Memorial Hospital. Thanks to the extraordinary generosity of residents, businesses, service clubs, municipalities, and community partners, we have built tremendous momentum. We are now approaching the final stretch of a $3.5 million campaign, and we are asking South Glengarry Council to help us cross the finish line. A CT scanner is much more than a piece of medical equipment. It means faster diagnoses. It means quicker treatment decisions. It means fewer residents traveling outside our community during some of the most stressful times, moments of their lives. Most importantly, it means better care close to home. Be a healer is the tagline for the campaign. It can be said, we are all healers. In a rural community, healing doesn't begin when someone arrives at the hospital. It begins when neighbors support neighbors. It happens when volunteers give their time, when local businesses contribute, and when community leaders invest in the services that keep families healthy and safe. Tonight, Council has an opportunity to join that community effort. We respectfully ask that Council direct staff to include a $10,000 contribution towards the HGMH Foundation CT scanner campaign within the township's 2027 budget, allowing the incoming council to consider and approve the contribution following the municipal election and their first budget deliberations. The timing would align perfectly with the final phase of our campaign as we work towards achieving our $3.5 million goal. The presentation that follows will demonstrate why this investment is so important, not only for our hospital, but for every resident of North Glengarry. My apologies, South Glengarry and Glengarry, who depend on timely access to quality healthcare. At this time, it is my pleasure to introduce our fundraising manager, Kim Herencio, who will walk you through the campaign, the data behind the need, and the impact a CT scanner will have on our community.
Sorry, it's quite high. Hi, thank you so much for this opportunity to present our fundraising campaign. This is a really great opportunity to also let you know. I'm sure that you are all familiar with what the hospital looks like, and I'm here tonight to let you know about what happens beyond our hospital doors, as Mike has mentioned. Sorry, it's still too high. As Mike said, at HGMH and in our foundation, we believe that healing does not start once a patient comes in through our doors. It happens when community members, neighbors, or help one another. This is our firm belief, and I'm going to walk you through as to, especially in our rural community, that matters. Okay. We are really proud of our hospital. It has started its operations in 1965, making it 61 years in operation to date. It has 37 beds. Once upon a time, there was an OB wing where people were born, but now there's no more service like that. But it doesn't mean that we don't have a lot of really strong services in our hospital. We are really proud to have a 24-hour emergency department. Whenever I speak with people in our community, they always say, we're really lucky to have a hospital right beside us. And I think especially in your perspective, really that proximity to a hospital matters, right? What I want to zone in on this number, 72,000 patients. For a small rural hospital, we served 72,000 patients in fiscal year 2026. And in fiscal year 2025, we served 54,000 patients. That really shows the demand for care in our community. And in this slide, I'm going to be sharing what those numbers represent. So in 2026, HGMH delivered 18,700 emergency visits. We also delivered 17,500 plus diagnostic imaging procedures, 22,500 plus laboratory tests, and 2,000 plus outpatient visits. Some of you may not know that we have specialists in our hospital, such as urology, gynecology, and respirology. So even as a small and mighty hospital, we really have a slew of services. And this really truly matters, especially for our community, that there's a proximity to those kinds of services. I want to zoom in also in the increase in the number of diagnostic imaging procedures. So in fiscal year 2025, there were about 11,000 diagnostic imaging procedures. Last year, it was 17,500. So you can see that it's one of the most important procedures that clinicians use to make decisions for care, especially for patients. You might be wondering, where does South Glengarry figure in all of these? For South Glengarry, I want to share the data from our emergency department. Unfortunately, the numbers from diagnostic imaging, laboratories, and outpatient specialists are not readily available, but we do have data to represent the demand from South Glengarry, which is the emergency department visits. So last fiscal year, we received 3,066 patients from South Glengarry, representing 16% of our emergency department total. And one thing that I'd like to highlight is that it increased from 2,849 the previous year. So it just shows that there are more residents from South Glengarry who rely on HGMH for care. And then this brings me to why I'm here. So our role at HGMH Foundation is different from the hospital. Our mission is to raise funds and foster community partnerships that empower Hospital Glengarry Memorial Hospital to deliver outstanding care, drive innovation, and ensure access to sustainable health care for future generations. Those are a lot of words. I'd like for you to focus on just one: partnerships. We recognize that we can't do this work alone. With the leadership of our board of directors and also with the executive director, we work with community members to really showcase why strengthening rural healthcare is important and why we work together to help make sure that we deliver outstanding healthcare even for future generations. Oops. One story that I'd like to mention, actually the reason why I'm standing in front of you today, is I got inspired by the actual very reason why HGMH Foundation exists. So in 2002, there was a threat of hospital closure, and community members rallied together to make sure that it doesn't happen. So they raised funds. Their first major campaign raised over $1.7 million to modernize the emergency department. And if you take a look at the number of people who've used the emergency department last fiscal year, I think that's a direct impact of what community generosity means, especially for a small community such as ours. If you can take a look at the pictures at the right, these actually represent the community members who stepped forward. These are individuals, these are businesses, these are clubs that support our cause and really appreciate and support strengthening rural healthcare. Today, I'm standing in front of you today because we are rallying community support once again. We are hoping to raise $3.5 million by the end of March 2027 for a new CT scanner. Right now, it's become a standard of care. If you've seen the number of increase of the diagnostic imaging procedures, that really shows that there's a lot of patients in need of answers sooner rather than later. This number is from the approval for a CT scan that the hospital submitted to the Ontario Ministry of Health. If you look at where we are, so imagine being a patient and needing and experiencing the worst headache of your life. And if you're at HMH, you will be told, we're so sorry, we don't have a CT scanner here. We would need to coordinate with any one of these hospitals on the left to ask if they have any availability for a scan, and from there, wait if they can actually accommodate. So imagine the time, experiencing the headache, the worst headache of your life, and having been told to drive 40 plus kilometers back and forth to get a 15-minute scan done. So that number of 6,000 patients, those represent the number of people that need answers sooner rather than later. Based on our catchment population, they estimated that the region, SDNG, should have had access to 20,453 CT hours annually. There's currently a gap of more than 8,000 CT hours each year. And I think with the growing population, it could grow larger. And so that's why it's really important for us to have an on-site CT scanner in our hospital. The numbers show you that rural patients cannot wait any longer. As Mike has said, we are asking for the Township of South Glengarry to consider supporting our fundraising campaign. And more importantly, beyond financial support, if you know people, businesses, organizations who can also help us get there, who may be very supportive of our cause, we'd really appreciate introductions to them so that we can also share why it's important for us to have an on-site CT scanner in our hospital. I'm really proud to say that because of community generosity and many people who've stepped up, we've reached a fundraising milestone. We've reached more than $2 million in our campaign to date. And this is because of people, businesses, community members, leaders who are very supportive of our cause. So help us bring life-saving care that's closer to home. We ask you to invest in the health of our community with a $10,000 contribution to fund vital hospital equipment and strengthen rural patient care. We started earlier with a call. Be a healer. We believe that healing does not just happen within our hospital walls, it happens within our community. Yes, they are physicians, yes, they are healthcare workers, but we believe that every one of us, when we step forward for rural healthcare, every one of us are healers. Thank you so much for your time this evening. I really appreciate you all for listening.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Are there any comments from around the table? Councillor Bougie.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mike and Kim, for your presentation. There's no doubt that the CT scanner is an important piece of equipment that is needed. Is Glengarry the only one in the area without this? So you're saying Hawkesbury, Cornwall, Winchester all have CT scanners? So
Yes.
Alexander is the only one, or Glengarry Hospital is the only one without it?
Yes, because of our size, we don't have that service available. And so we had to apply and prove to the ministry that there's actually a need for us to have this on site.
Okay. Well, I mean, thanks for that. And based on, in your statistics, 72,000 a year, so that's roughly 200 patients served, 51 per day on the emergency. I mean, I feel like a CT scanner is something you definitely should have. And
Yeah.
it's good to see the generosity of the community, and I would be very comfortable saying that, well, on South Glengarry, I would be comfortable with the 10,000 amount for the budget in 2027.
Thank you.
Councillor McInerney.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the presentation, both of you, Mike and Kim. I got to benefit from your services this spring on a weekend, and I have to admit having Glengarry Memorial Hospital there saved me an agonizing ride to Hawkesbury in the truck, so I did appreciate having that service there, and then how quickly I did get my imagery done as far as an x-ray the following morning. I think I was in and out within an hour and 10 minutes, and there was enough people there, so I was quite impressed with how quick they were able to do that and see me, and the level of care was bar none the best, and I'd gone to 3 hospitals for that injury, and it was definitely the most pleasant part of my experience was the initial visits. So I just wanted to give the team there that kudos, and just to say that I would be supportive of council or staff bringing this to 2027 budget. So
Thank you
very
so much for the feedback and for the support.
We'll go Councillor Jaworski, then Deputy Mayor Lang.
Thank you, through you, Mayor McDonald. So, again, thank you, echoing the rest of my council colleagues. Thank you for coming to present this. And it's just so important for this kind of information to get disseminated within the community so that folks understand, just the volume that goes through our local hospitals, like the pieces of information, the facts that you shared, I think are just so important to have those disseminated out so that people can understand just the value of infrastructure like this. And I mean, definitely there's a need, but beyond that, ensuring that our local hospital has that kind of equipment really helps insulate it from, like when you were talking about like 2 decades ago or 2.5 decades ago when it was being eyed for closure. When you have, the modern equipment that patients and physicians expect to be able to, patients expect and physicians expect to be able to provide good service, it helps insulate your facility from that kind of negative scrutiny, I would say. So yeah, I'm looking forward to discussing this further at budget, and hopefully there'll be support from around the table at that time to contribute to the campaign.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you, thanks for your presentation, and congratulations on raising $2 million. I'm trying to remember when I was there, the night you guys kicked off your campaign, and I can't remember how long ago it was, but it doesn't seem very long ago.
It's a year ago.
Congratulations on that, and looking forward to supporting you.
Thank you.
Well, I guess we'll see this on our 2027 grants and donations budget. And thank you very much, both of you, for your presentation. And we'll let the next council determine that. But, I mean, there's opportunity that it will, can't see anybody saying no, but I don't know who will be here next. And thank you very much for your time and also what you give to the community. I joke sometimes with Casey, who's my wife. My birth certificate says Cornwall, and I always say I'm from Glengarry. So I wish there was the ability, like 40 years ago, to be born in Glengarry, because it's the one regret of my life is having Cornwall on my birth certificate, not Glengarry. So aside from that, you're doing a wonderful job.
Thank you so much, Mayor and councilors, for the time tonight. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Right, we'll move to action requests. Moved by Councillor McDonnell, second by Deputy Mayor Lang. Be it resolved that staff report 2026 AD be received and that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry approve the request from the Glengarry Fencibles Trust for support of its application to the Government of Canada's Legacy Fund program. The Council commit $4,000 annually through the Township Grant and Donations Program for 2027 and 2028 for the total commitment of $8,000 to support the Glengarry Fencible Trust's restoration project, and that council approve an in-kind donation for 4 landfill tipping fees valued at $250 each for a total value of $1,000 in 2026. Any discussion? Councillor McDonnell?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. I had the opportunity to speak with one of the board members over the weekend, and then I actually I put it in my calendar. I don't know when I saw it, but got to watch Patty Kelly and one of the Morris family members sing on Sunday, kill an hour and a half up there. I think it's a worthy cause. I did get a little more background. I think on the request for the full funding of the 4,000. I think we've maybe reduced them over the last couple of years in our reevaluation. I'd speak in support of it just because it's going to a specific project, and I think it's when evaluated in their application to the government, it shows that the federal government is not just the one kicking in the money, that there is a local commitment, and they also have a written-in commitment of what they're chipping in as well to this project. So it's not I don't believe it's a wholly funded project by the federal government, but I think it's seen as potentially an opportunity for them to, with that local commitment, to get them a little higher up the application list. So I'll speak in support of it. I do think it should be for the 2 years, and then we or the future council can reevaluate. But I'll give another plug for my moving forward with our grants and donations. Maybe it'd be nicer to be able to give them 16,000 and cut down some of our other kind of annual donations that are just reoccurring and focus on some of these major projects where we've got community groups like this that are kind of running their own organization. I know, I think there was some substantial costs they have. Insurance was a major one, something that I think future council could talk with or continue to advocate the provincial government on getting changed. But that being aside, I'd be in support of this. The only question I did have was the in-kind tipping fees. I'm assuming this is for renovation materials. Is that we're willing to take those into our landfill site against our policy? No problem. I have no problem with that. I just wanted to be clear. I didn't think they'd be generating that much garbage.
Councillor Bougie?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yeah, I'd like to echo Councillor McNeil's sentiment. The work they have done over the years is truly remarkable. This Glengarry Fencibles group, it would have been torn down years ago if it wasn't for this group to step forward to promote and fundraise thousands of dollars to get to where they are now. So it's incredible the work they've done already. There is major costs coming for them, so I'm in full support with the letter, and hopefully they can get more funding. At a time there was cost matching. I remember a time we donated $25,000 because they knew the federal government was going to match it. So definitely in support of this group, and hopefully they get some major funding from the federal government at some point.
Thank you. Councillor Jaworski?
Thank you, through you, Mayor McDonald. Just the one item I wanted to sort of add to what's already been said is there's been a lot of discussion, right, on historical heritage, infrastructure, buildings, you know, what have you, in our area, and the value that the community puts on those. And so this is, you know, very much central to, I think, those efforts. This, you know, this facility, for lack of a better word, and definitely recognizing the huge amount of work that this group of volunteers and over a very prolonged period of time. So I think it's very much in keeping with, you know, the discussions that we've had with respect to heritage through the last few months. So definitely I would be in support of this initiative.
Deputy Mayor Lang, thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I think most of it's been said, but you know, I think that's what we wanted our grants and donations to go to, were special projects, something that added the benefit to the community, not just somebody's, you know, regular money. So this fits the bill.
Thank you. So I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Carried. We'll go to zoning bylaws and zoning bylaw amendment. Moved by Councillor Jaworski, seconded by Councillor Bougie. Be resolved, staff report 2026-81 be received, and that bylaw 2026-49 being a bylaw to amend bylaw 3809 to amend the limited service residential exception 4 zoning to permit an additional dwelling unit on the subject property, which will result in a total of 3 dwelling units for the property legally described as part of Lot 24, Schlottenburg Concession 1 Front, in the geographic township of Schlottenburg, now in the township of South Glengarry, county of Glengarry, located at 18645 Prevo Point Road, pin 671300566, be read a first, second, and third time, passed, signed, and sealed in open council this 24th day of August 2026. The council of the township of South Glengarry confirms that no comments from the public were received on this application. Therefore, there was no effect on the decision. Mrs. Haley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you mentioned, this property is located at 18645 Prevo Point Road. It's currently developed, containing a single detached dwelling, and that dwelling has an apartment unit in it and has had that zoning for quite some time. The property is almost 3 acres in size, and the property owner had approached the municipality a few months back, as well as the Conservation Authority, to determine if there was developability potential for the vacant portion of the property. And the property appeared to be a little tricky at first, but with some analysis completed by the Raisin Region Conservation Authority, it was determined that there was the ability to have a building envelope that would be above the floodplain that would be able to be large enough to accommodate an additional dwelling unit. This parcel of property has an existing zoning of limited services residential with an exception to accommodate the apartment unit. Limited services residential zone does not allow additional dwelling units. We typically don't want additional development on private roads where we don't maintain those roads. We're not able to provide all the services. But some of our private roads are a little more unique than others. They have better access, they're wider, they're not as dense. And so we do rely on the opinion of our fire chief to assist us in cases like this to ensure that there can be emergency services provided, both fire and ambulance. The last thing we want to do is add additional dwellings. We're in an area where we can't provide those services, but that's not the case in this particular situation. So with the positive review of the fire chief as well as the Conservation Authority, the property owner, Mr. Knight, filed a zoning amendment application to go through the process. You may recall that we did a public meeting on July 27th. There was no members of public in attendance. We did not receive any comments, written comments or oral comments either, in support of or in opposition to this amendment. You'll see in the staff report that we provided a detailed review of the planning policy framework that we're required to look at. We are recommending that this application be approved as it's consistent with the PPS and it conforms to the official plan. And if council chooses to make a decision this evening and approve it, a decision will be made on day 63. So if there's any questions, please let me know.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions further to the staff report and the presentation before? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. All right, there's nothing pulled from the consent agenda, so moved by Councillor Jaworski, seconded by Councillor McDonnell. Be it resolved that council accepts the items listed on the consent agenda. All those in favor? Carried. Right, before we get to notices of motion, we do have our committee, board and committee updates. If you don't mind, I should have said that I'm going to, as August, there's only one meeting. I didn't share what's going on kind of in the community, so if you see something I missed or that you attended on my behalf, let me know. So last time we did the mayor's update was July 13th. The Glen Nevis Social we had talked about. We had got, so that happened. Manor House Social, the Lancaster District nonprofit housing had a few meetings. I don't think it's a secret, but they're trying to trying to make themselves more independent. I believe we put in a pretty competitive team in the St. Raffles Ruins Golf Tournament. Highland Games, Williamstown Fair happened that I failed to mention at the last meetings. Thank you, Councillor Bougie, for reminding me of our big events. The Martintown Mill had a very successful AGM, and after that, we're quite successful with fundraising efforts. We got to AMO conference, where we had 2 delegations. I thought they went well, well received. And then we came back to the Glengarry Sports Hall of Fame. And then I guess for those of you who didn't attend on Thursday, because it wasn't live, we bought an airport, so that was a pretty big deal for our township. And then other than that, I think we had a county meeting today, so moving to SDG County Council updates. Deputy Mayor, if I missed something, please let me know, or do you prepare to? So I going from my notes, so they're a touch messy, but we had a special meeting of council beforehand, changing in planning. I'm not always the best on planning, so if there are changes coming, you can consult with Mrs. Haley, but there's Tier 1 and Tier 2 employment zones, and that is density and on the fringes of where your like suburbs would be, so you can have less dense employment zones, I believe. On-farm diversified, I believe that's more for the biodigesters coming through, so you can produce energy, which is wonderful. Natural heritage, I didn't know perfectly if that was stronger or weaker. Deputy Mayor Lang asked that question, and it seems that it's pretty much status quo, and the whole intent of all these things is to make it more permissive, make it more simpler to follow provincial guidelines to make it simple or easier to develop lands that should be developed. We also had a official plan amendment. On your way, well, does everyone know where Malcolm Fraser lives, or who else would be a person around there? Mary Regan. In between Williamstown and Cornwall on County Road 19, there's a property that's being severed, and it required quite a bit of effort to get it that way because of the way it's designed. There will be a request of administration probably, I imagine in the future, to look into see if there's a way how to make it quicker. And that lot will be severed. Ag committee terms have been made. PSAB doesn't really matter because it's not things we concern ourselves with. The cash budget, sorry. Icing costs, it was budgeted for 200,000. They're going 226, but it's kind of like, the end of 2026, 27, so that's on track. Plow costs went up 6%, so anticipate costs of our, like inflation on our reserves, probably at the county and our own equipment reserves to be 6% higher than last year, just to accommodate for these costs. Personnel policy came through. The big thing on it was the counties did not recognize Remembrance Day, but they did Truth and Reconciliation Day. Not as stat holidays now. They will be taken as days of, I don't know, there's a proper, days of reflection. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Lang. And so if they fall during the weekday, they will be reflected, and if it's on the weekend, there's no in lieu of. So the counties took that action. The South Nation Four-Wheeling Club got access to the roads. Transfer of County Road 36. So in Long Sault, I think it's where LVB is. That road is now becoming a lower tier road, and there'll be a county road at the north end whenever they bring in their industrial park. Sale of surplus lot, very small. Floodplain mapping, SNC is doing a pretty massive job, and the township or county will put in about 250,000. It's been saved over time. AC index is off the charts, so enjoy that with our paving. I think it's 53% higher than when we started, even with that little dip recently in gas prices. And then there were several reports after that, and we'll discuss the warden term of office potentially changing it from 1 to 2 to even 4, or any other options. These are, we've said basically, hey, maybe we can get better representation, but there will be debate for the next term of council. If the next term of council decides to do it, it will be for the 2030 term of council. So one thing that stuck in my mind was we had an Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus chair once, and it was whenever then Warden Duncan ran twice in a row. So it shows the kind of that was a powerful statement to me to show that, like, we can, you know, Eastern Ontario can have more representation if we had longer term, but that is to be decided by not me. Any further things to that?
The only thing I'd add is that under that plow that's up 6%, we bought 2 plows, one of them's for South Glengarry, and 482,000 and change. So that'll be for next year's budget.
I think we had pre-approved that one at something. Also, there was a staff appreciation. I don't want to forget that. And that was, if you want to watch the end of it, there's some long-serving members and retirement. Councillor McDonnell.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Is that with equipment? Okay, so it's not just that's not a bare chassis. It's
225,000 for the cabin chassis and 257 almost for the plow and equipment, or the
for the
plowing
harness and the
equipment.
plow and the box.
I would assume box and everything.
Wow. Okay.
I remember whenever I was a young treasurer, and that cost a lot less. I think it was 250 all in. That's not that long ago. Were there any other committee or board meetings that people wish to speak of? Cornwall Regional Airport, Raisin River Conservation Authority.
The archives are next week or next month.
Archives next week. The museum, Agricultural Committee, CIP. I guess, yeah, that might Connectivity Committee, Environment Committee, and Heritage Advisory Committee probably all have not met. Okay. So then we'll go to notice of motions. I have a mover in Councillor McDonnell. This is for farm and field entrance widths. Can I get a seconder? I'll go to Deputy Mayor Lang. Just take a moment while I write that down. Moved by Councillor McDonnell, seconded by Deputy Mayor Lang. Be it resolved that Council of the Townships of South Glengarry direct administration to review the township's current practices and standards respecting entrance width for agricultural properties, including farms and field entrances, and to investigate potential options, operational considerations, and any associated financial or regulatory implications of permitting wider entrances where appropriate, and that administration reports its findings and any recommendations back to council no later than the first regular council meeting in October 2026. Councillor McDonnell, is there anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. I had requested this just, I guess, of staff and to take a look into it. And the mayor thought, and rightfully so, thought this should come to council just for all of council's approval. No point in wasting staff's time if there is an appetite around the table to investigate it. Over the weekend, I took a little bit of time and ran around and found a very relatively new entrance. It was put in probably a month and a half ago on one of my farm fields. I've had this concern from a number of farm operators in the area, and I know there's been a lot of work done through the OFA for different standards and recommendations for municipalities and how to go about it and have that conversation. I just am in the unique position where I sit at this table with the rest of you, and I can bother you with my own issues. The entrance that I kind of sent around was, you know, the standard 20 feet at the top or 18 feet at the top, and it's getting harder and harder with the size of the equipment that we're running to get into these fields. That 18-foot clearance across the top of a culvert was great actually great in this sense where you can see the trail marks through my field where my uncle still goes and cuts a little bit of hay at the back with his 165 and hay bind, so he's got lots of clearance. But for my sprayer at 13 feet wide and 18 feet long, or the combine with their collective sizes, I won't be able to get wagons into the field this fall, and that poses a bit of a safety issue when I'm coming out onto the road and having to load on the road all through the fall. Luckily, it's a fairly quiet road, but there's places on, say, on the first line or the second line road, just at that kitty corner, that we wouldn't feel comfortable doing that, and it would pose some serious issues if we didn't have the 7th concession to load on where we've got a little extra time. I think it's a public safety issue, and I don't think producers would be even opposed in places where if they're looking to widen them, maybe they've got to kick a little bit in if they want to go to the extra 40 feet, but a 30-foot wide would be probably ample in a lot of cases. Maybe not on some of these tighter roads, but I know I included a picture of one in a neighboring municipality at the bottom where it's a gentleman I do some work for, and it's a bit of a treat to be able to pull in, not have to cross right to the other side of the ditch and swing across the road, posing a bit of an accident if you've got a car behind you or somebody oncoming up a hill or something like that. It gives lots of space that I can pull in from my lane into the field and not put anybody else at risk or myself. So just a request of staff, if council sees fit, that staff come back with a recommendation to maybe on ag properties increase that minimum standard, and if people want to go even above and beyond that, or if staff feels 30 is enough and somebody wants to go beyond, that they reserve the right to maybe extend it at their cost or something along those lines. So just looking for appetite around the table.
All right, Deputy Mayor Lang.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. Yes, I'd be happy to support that. I mentioned it this morning when at County Council meeting, mentioned it to the manager of infrastructure at the counties, and their bylaw is very similar. And I think it's time maybe look at both of them and get them updated, and happy to see what staff comes up with, and maybe we can find a little bit of best management practice and send it to the staff for their reading.
Councillor Jaworski.
Thank you, through you, Mayor McDonald. Certainly, we have to recognize that agriculture is our largest industry in South Glengarry, and so definitely it makes sense to ensure that our infrastructure is not a impediment to that industry. So I think it makes a lot of sense to take a look at this. One thing, I'm not suggesting any change to the language, but certainly, and I think this refers a bit to some of the further context around it, is that it kind of fits also into like the road rationalization work that had been started in terms of, you know, being clear on what infrastructure is needed and ensuring that we don't have unnecessary duplication. So certainly, I mean, obviously larger entrances come with a higher cost. So I think it's important to be very clear on what that is, and also have a view of, you know, where can we eliminate them where they're no longer required as well. So just to add that additional bit of context to it, I'm not suggesting any changes to the language, but because I don't think I'm against what's been, like, I don't think it's diverting from it. But yeah, thanks.
Just
Councillor McInerney.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. I think I did include that in my one sheet that I can send to staff as well. There's often a number of these entrances were put in when there were a number of fence rows going through the fields, and what's now maybe 1 or 2 fields because of a drainage ditch used to be 6 or 7 with fence rows, and it kind of lines up where some of these entrances probably aren't where we need them, and they'd be better off in a different spot based on a hill in the road or whatever the case may be, and some of them probably there's 2 or 3 that could be eliminated on a single farm, or you know, a guy could do with one less and get a wider one and would just use that. So I'd agree as well. There's a little bit of consultation that have to be done at that time, but if with a little bit of lead time, guys can give their comments, I'm sure would be happy to give input on where they'd like their entrances.
All right, thank you. And I'm interested in seeing like, because there could be a financial component to this, so I look forward to having like that fulsome information because I think it makes a ton of sense. And if it's a ton of sense on $1 million a year extra, maybe not. But if it's reasonable, then obviously we'll certainly take it. So all those in favor of the motion as read, carried. All right, the second one was about Alto Rail Project. Again, moved by Councillor McDonnell. Looking for a seconder. We'll go Councillor Bougie. Moved by Councillor McDonnell, seconded by Councillor Bougie. Be it resolved that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry supports the resolution passed by the municipality of South Dundas on July 8th, 2026, attached here to, and that the Township of the Township of South Glengarry supports the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus in opposing the Alto project in its current form and urges Alto and the federal government to coordinate with Via Rail to maintain and enhance passenger rail service, provide a clear integration plan, and work with the municipalities to ensure rural residents remain connected, and that this resolution be sent to the Prime Minister, the Minister of Transportation, Alto CEO, the EOWC, MP Eric Duncan, the Premier of Ontario, MVP Nolan Quinn, AMO, OFA, and the municipalities of the United Counties of SDG. Councillor McDonnell.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, I think we've all probably had this conversation privately and publicly with people we know, and I think we all had the opportunity maybe to speak with some of the Prescott Russell elected officials and staff last week at the conference, and Warden Santh was very clear on kind of his thoughts, and I think he's even got an article written or was picked up maybe by the Globe and Mail. Anyways, it's a very concerning project. I personally had a meeting with Alto in Ottawa after the conference was over, and unfortunately it's still very vague, very generic, no real answers from a municipal standpoint, even pointed questions like who's responsible for this infrastructure over our roadways as a municipality whenever it's aged to its life expectancy and needs replacement. They are unable to tell us who is going to be financially responsible for replacing those crossings, whether it's Alto or whether Alto is going to take care of the work at the municipality's cost, as we know with CN. It's often the case, and uniquely CN has the argument at times that they were there before the road. But in this case, there is absolutely no argument for them being there before the roadway. In spots, it's going to stagnate any potential growth in some of the municipalities and urban boundaries. And we've seen this come across the north with a strong hand, and there's a lot of active groups that are fighting against it and actively looking for answers. And I think lending our support to it, this came across our desk, I think back in March, and I think it was overlooked by ourselves at the table, and better late than never, I guess, is kind of what I'm going for here.
Thank you. I think I've said a few times that this is a city solution that costs the rural municipalities. So as much as I agree with kind of like roads, bridges, and buildings, this one is not one that I think helps us at all. And it actually just connects 3 or 5 cities, and I guess could say our mega cities, but it forgets the rural. And I like that this one particularly focuses on Via Rail because maybe there's an appetite to now, like if Alto is the worst enemy, perhaps a dedicated passenger line on existing tracks might not be popular, but it's better than this, and it serves everybody. So that would be a hopeful outcome in my thoughts. But without going on, are there any other comments? I guess we all feel the same way. All those in favor? Carried. Lastly, this is support for MFOA request for permanently increasing OSIF. It was moved by Deputy Mayor Lang. Can I get a seconder? Go Councillor Jaworski. So moved by Deputy Mayor Lang, seconded by Councillor Jaworski, whereas municipal asset management plans have identified significant infrastructure renewal and state of good repair needs, and whereas the Ontario Community Infrastructure Fund, OSIF, has become a critical source of funding to support municipal infrastructure renewal, and whereas the province of Ontario has not publicly committed to maintaining the current annual OSIF funding level beyond 2026, therefore be it resolved that the Township of South Glengarry supports the Municipal Finance Officers Association of Ontario, MFOA, request to the province of Ontario to permanently maintain OSIF at 400 million annually beyond 2026, and directs that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to the Minister of Infrastructure, Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, Minister of Finance, MPP Nolan Quinn, MFOA, AMO, and the municipalities of the United Counties of SDG. Any further conversation, Deputy Mayor?
No, I don't think we need to talk too much. We talked about it last meeting a little bit, but it's very tough on municipalities not to have something that's stable that they can count on. And it would be nice if the province would, step up and say this is permanent, and we know that is permanent. So anyway, happy to support this on behalf of the Municipal Finance Officers Association.
Thank you. No further comments. All those in favor? Carried. So we'll be moving into closed session. Moved by Councillor Jaworski, seconded by Councillor McDonnell. Be it resolved that Council convene to closed session at 7:26 p.m. to discuss the following item under Section 239(2)F of the Municipal Act. A meeting or part of a meeting may be closed to the public if the subject matter being considered is E, litigation or potential litigation, specifically direction for litigation. All those in favor? Carried. Coming out of closed session, moved by Councillor Bougie, seconded by Councillor Jaworski, be it resolved that the council rise and reconvene into open session at 7:59 PM. All those in favor? Carried. And that was coming out without reporting. Closed session, moved by Councillor McDonnell, seconded by Councillor Bougie, be resolved that administration be directed to carry out all actions as specified in the closed session minutes. All those in favor? Carried. Confirming bylaw, moved by Deputy Mayor Lang, seconded by Councillor Bougie, be it resolved that bylaw 2026-50, being a bylaw to adopt, confirm, and ratify matters dealt with by resolution, be read a first, second, and third time, passed, signed, and sealed in open council this 24th day of August 2026. All those in favor? Carried. Adjournment. Anything anybody wants to add? I'm not missing the Williamstown Fair or the Highland Games again. Okay. Moved by Councillor McDonnell, seconded by Councillor Jaworski. Be it resolved that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry adjourn to the call of the chair at 8 p.m. All those in favor? Carried. Have a good night, everyone.